Hi and welcome to another episode of Top Volts, and today we're going to be looking at the Scalextric C5 Europa. This was first released in 1967 on their 8th edition catalogue. It's a very nice car. Is where they introduced the sled engine, which is a complete one piece with the pickups right down into the motor with the back axle connected. A very tidy bit of kit, and actually a very good design back in the day. It's makes access and cleaning the motor very easy. The model itself is actually quite strong and robust, with a fair bit of detail, with like the exhausts and bits and bobs sticking out here with the mirrors and the driver. And also it's quite a large car as well. It's there's quite a bit of presence with it, you know. It's got a bit of weight to it. But what we'll do, we'll have a little look over this today, and just have a look. Like, for example, I think the braids could do a changing, and possibly we'll clean where the brushes make contact with the motor. That looks to be a little bit dirty there, so maybe we can clean it up and just get it running nice. The pinion all looks to be in very good condition, and the copper wire, all bar a little bit of mess on there. Looks to be in good condition. So what we have is a pivot point. So if we was to flip this over, and then from the pickup, if I can do this, you raise it, and can you see from the rear axle you have a pivot point, and it continues around, and this allows access to both sides of the motor, which is absolutely brilliant. It makes life very easy to work on it. As you can see, this is the point where the wires come from the braids all the way through with these very neat clips that hold the wires nice and tight. This is your spring, which is holding your brushes in place, but also the point of contact for each side. So each one of the braids is making contact to each brush. So very straightforward. Really nice to work on. As you can see, just, you know, you can literally just release those brushes so easily. But before we get into that, I think we should change these braids. So what we have on this one, there's a little nut just on the back there. These normally are not that tight, so we should be able to hopefully release this with me just holding it. Yes, there you go. So I tend just to walk it back. And equally, when you tighten this up, you really don't want to go too crazy on this, because as you're about to see, so that's a brass nut, but screwing onto a plastic thread. So just place that to one side for a moment. As you can see here, it's literally just catching onto a plastic thread, so you really don't need to wind these down too much. So we'll release these braids. They tend to fold around this pickup. You should be able to just slide them off the side. Perfect, just like that. And this side, we'll do the same again. Just release those two. Just put it from the side. Yeah, that definitely needed changing. So we've got a couple of new braids here. Because what we need to ensure is when we wrap the braids back around this pickup, that on this location, this is where it makes contact. So the braids actually sit on here, and when they turn, they pivot on these two brass connections. So we need to ensure that when we place the braids back onto the pickup, we have a good point of contact here. So what you want to do first is go into the back section of the braid, of the pickup, sorry, and just bend that over. Just go a little bit more on that. Just literally bend that over. So it kind of holds in there like that. Just make sure it's in there snug. And transfer that across. What you want to do is just carefully slide that back into that groove. Just in there like that. You want to try and keep the braid together as much as you can so it doesn't start to fray. And that will be your point of contact onto those brass connections. Just bring that around there, and then what we'll do is we'll clip these down in a moment. Okay, we'll do the other side. Once again, just place that through. Through there. We just bend that back. So you got it just sitting on there like that. Transfer that across. And then through. Once again, being careful not to fray the braid. Just slide that through. Just give that a little tug just to get that to sit flat. And curve that over. So you've got your two braids sitting on it like that. And then from above, you have your 2 points of contact, which will sit on those brass tabs. You just want to make sure that there's no sort of frayed areas sticking out. Just keep that neat and tidy. Same that side. Just tuck those in. And then we'll just clip these back. And the same the other side. So that's what you have there. So what we want to do now is place that plastic thread back through there. As you can see, it's making contact. Bring that back around. Place our brass nut back on there. When winding this down, you really don't want to go too tight, because what you want to be feeling is that you can feel just a slight bit of resistance. So you can just start to feel the resistance on there now. There you go. So it's very loose still, but you can actually feel that it's making contact. Because in fact, when the car itself, if we just carefully push those back, being careful of cables. So when the car is sat in the track, the weight of the car is actually pushing down on that connection point. So that aids in the good connection between the braids and those brass tabs. So our next job will be to clean this section there. Okay, so now we'll clean the connections and the brushes on the motor. So first things first, we'll release the brushes. There's one release there. We do the same for this side. So that's the spring that retains the brushes in place. So we'll just lift those brushes out. Perfect, just like that. Just place that there for a moment. You can see just a little bit of a clean just needed. And the same on that one. Just to remove just a little bit of carbon there, as you can see. So it's a tiny bit of alcohol. You don't have to go too crazy on the brushes themselves. You just literally want to remove the loose carbon, just to ensure that you don't transfer the dirt onto the spine of the motor. Okay, that's perfect. So turning the car around, the area that we want to clean is just there. So just a tiny bit more alcohol. So what I like to do is just place that onto that point of connection and turn the motor. And you should be able to see how quickly that cleans up. That's come up really nice. As you can see, we've removed a fair amount. Okay, now let's put the brushes back. And what you want to make sure at these points there are pushed over this sleeve on the spring, because what you don't want to do is to make a connection between this point and the spring. So this is a protective sleeve, so when you put that on, you just want to make sure you can see that's clear of the sleeve. So that's only to make contact with the brush, and it's the same on that side. See, there it is there. So just, if you have to, you could push that protective sleeve just up a little bit. So we'll take our first brush. Just place that in there like that. Just got to ensure that sits in there snug. I'm going to pull this spring across just to hold that into place while we take the other brush. We'll drop that into place. Perfect. So the spring is now doing its job. Just ensure that those pickups are sitting snug. Not making any connections anywhere. And that's moving very freely. Once again, we'll place the motor back into place. Be careful not to pinch the cables, or the wires, should I say. You can see that's a much clean connection. The brushes are all back in place. Okay, so we'll run this up and just let those brushes bed back in again. Okay, so we'll run this motor up. We'll keep the volts low initially, just to allow those brushes to bed back in again. So I'm just gonna lift the back wheels ever so slightly, and we just start the volts low, then we'll slowly increase. It's working perfectly. Thank you for watching my video. I hope you've enjoyed the content and found some of the tips useful. As always, if you have any useful tips or advice or guidance on this car or any other vintage Scalextric cars, please leave them in the comments and I'll try my best to get back to you. As always, any advice is greatly appreciated. Thank you, and I'll see you at the next one.